Hello, and if you are joining us for the first time, welcome. We are Remarkist, communities of fans who watch television shows and movies together virtually, but as if we're in the same room, gathered around the same television. We do this using the Clubhouse app, and we would love to have you join us for future watches. You can simply make an account on Clubhouse and search for our name Remarkist to find our club. Or if you'd like more information about the project as a whole, please visit remarkist.com to learn lots more about who we are and what we do. As for our recordings, remember that we always get our episodes started but paused at the 0-second mark and count down to pressing the play button together at the same time. That way, our experience can be as synced up as possible. You can pause this for a moment to get that set up, or if you're ready to go, let's get this thing started.
Okay, are we ready? Anybody have any questions? Great. So on the count of 3, we are all going to hit our play buttons. 1, 2, 3.
Did you say 3 already?
Yes. Did you guys not hear it?
Nope. I heard it. I heard it. I started.
Okay, timestamp is 25 seconds in.
Thank you.
So we got some Romeo and Juliette references here. So I'm guessing that we're going to probably have some of that to a degree in the show.
Yeah, it's the whole episode, basically.
Well, not just the production, but that maybe some themes of it are going to play into the episode as well, right? I mean, you don't have to tell me yes or no. I'll see for myself. That's just all that's coming to mind.
I think we need to make you like a little sign that just says, watch and you'll find out.
Yes. This is exciting. I love episodes with big production. Interesting that she's smoking. I'll talk about that afterwards, because smoking in shows on Warner Brothers Warner Brothers shows has changed dramatically since 2000.
Yes, I was just going to say that would not be the case now, and
it would not be allowed now. Yeah. I'll talk.
Patty has such a great storytelling voice. Can I just say that? Like, she has that voice that you could just listen to her tell a story all day.
Oh yeah.
Well,
for sure.
for the run of Gilmore Girls, the smoking was not an issue because that's like a thing for Patty.
That's a what?
That's a constant for Patty. Sorry, it says a little poor connection. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Can hear you.
That's something that comes back with Miss Patty throughout the show. She's always smoking.
I wouldn't say always, but we do see it throughout the show.
Smoking is something that, well, we'll talk about that in the post show. Just some interesting production tidbit that I can share.
Here comes your boyfriend, John.
Your bird.
There's that bag boy.
Someone needs to dub the bad boy song to make it bag boy.
Very romantic.
This is Dostoevsky. I love the reverse cliche of the guy like remembering the anniversary.
I find it annoying that he's like, oh, just switch everything around. You don't have to go to dinner, but I couldn't just take off this one day of work. So.
Oh wow, this is great. Like the troubadour is really cool. That's like the first real like close up on the troubadour, right?
I love him.
He is the best and adds such a great layer to the show.
Right, but it's cool that we're like, the writers are sort of finding that with him, you know?
I love that it takes both of them to make Hamburger Helper.
That was fun. That was a boom mic that came into the shot. Did you see that?
Yep. And again.
Wow, that's the first that I've seen it. Cabbage patching. That's a reference.
The cone of silence.
And Taylor has been in every episode since he's been introduced, hasn't he?
Pretty much.
What's he writing on the pad? He didn't talk to anyone.
Yeah, that's just maybe after business. Oh.
Best line.
Oh. Oh, this is going to be a good episode.
It's moments like that I wish we had commercial breaks so you could like process this in between scenes.
Yeah, it's true.
See, if this was an app, we could program commercials into this or watch like tapes of it that were recorded in the 90s and 2000s.
Oh my God, this is so wild.
Lorelai saying she has to go sit in a closet. That was cracked me up. I love that line.
With Kathy Bates.
She's so awkward without Rory.
Oh my gosh.
I wonder when was the last time she was there without Lori.
Probably never.
It's like she's a child again.
I like Emily's dress.
I was just thinking, I really love how she wrapped that scarf. It's a scarf on top of a dress, and it's really
Okay, well that's what I like then.
I forgot about this.
I love Richard so much, and just how opposite he really is to Hamilton.
Oh my god, I forgot about this.
And this episode really made me love Richard even so much more in their relationship as immoralized. Emily's never one to waste an opportunity.
The phone call to get Rory out of dinner went way too easily for it not to be something, and she knew it.
Good breeding. Ouch.
Does Emily not know about math?
No, because
yeah, she
Lorelai
does.
doesn't tell her anything.
But was Max 3 months?
Yeah, did Max last for
Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe 2.
I don't think he did.
He did, because that's when Suki asked her, you're just about the 3-month mark when they had that conversation.
So maybe he didn't quite make it to the 3 months. Hello, turtleneck.
Timestamp?
25:55.
$25.55?
Yeah, now it's 26:10. I was giving you a few seconds ahead because I know that by the time you get it up and running, it's probably at that time. high school kids going to fancy restaurants is very funny to me.
I was just thinking that they are by far the youngest people in that restaurant right now.
But it's very much the thing that, kids want to be more adult-like, and then the older you get, the more you want to be a kid again. Or at least that goes for me.
I'm at that moment.
Me also.
Yeah.
It's true, John. It's true. I don't know why I ever wanted to be an adult.
Adulting sucks.
Creepy. I love that you can just see the annoyance on Richard's face.
I was just going to say the same thing.
I've watched tennis matches that were more entertaining than this.
Yeah, absolutely love Richard in this scene.
Emily is the only one that's like completely focused on what's his name, Lorelai and Richard.
Maybe I missed
no.
it. Maybe I missed it. What exactly is Richard so annoyed about?
He didn't know he was coming.
Okay,
And he doesn't really approve, I think, of Emily trying to set her up, and he's boring and annoying.
Right, because he is certainly annoying. I just wasn't sure if that was what it was. Got it.
Yeah, you didn't miss like a big pivotal moment.
There's the mayor again. We thought that he was maybe not in it anymore.
A TikTok came up in my For You page yesterday asking about the mayor and his disappearance in the series.
And now Emily doesn't like him anymore.
He's so gross. What?
This guy's grody.
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to powder my thumb. But
Oh my
He is horrible.
And the creepy dolls. I didn't see those before.
Major EBGBs.
The creepy dolls, right?
The creepy dolls and the creepy guy.
She has a thing for creepy furniture and accessories.
I love this.
I love this scene.
Nice.
So sweet.
That's my favorite Richard Lorelai moment.
I love this.
I feel like that might be the only time that she refers to him as daddy.
I think there might be one more, but I'm not sure what season.
Oh my goodness. Who cannot be Team Dean?
You're
at
in love,
this
aren't
moment?
you?
The
You
more
were.
of it I watch,
I
the more
cannot
times
be
I've watched
Dean.
it, the less I like Dean. Also, I realized a little bit ago this is not the episode that I thought it was by the title. I thought I read somewhere they paid like $20,000 to use this song in this scene.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Oh, so many things right
God, these actors just nailed that scene.
Idiot. Bean, not you.
I love this song. He sang this song at the concert in Unionville.
Saw that coming.
Did you see that coming?
Did not see that coming. Wow.
Rachel is Luke's Christopher.
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing. I was waiting for the post-show discussion to be like, so basically, we basically just had 2 episodes back to back that were about, you know, Lorelai's past coming back, and then now it seems like, you know, at the very least we should have one more episode with Rachel as well, which is just cool. That's just really nice.
I don't like her.
That's just really nice pacing. Like
I don't
either.
either.
I actually like her. I like her.
Okay,
Please tell me why. Whoever said they like Rachel, please tell me why.
I don't really have much of an opinion on Rachel yet. She seems very bland to me right now. Like she seems like she's just a bucket list of all the sorry, hold on guys. We're trying to figure out our baby monitor situation right now.
You're fine. That was Mavis said that, but I'm kind of basing that on future episodes and her interactions with Laura. She becomes more interesting.
I was going to say the same
Buy
thing.
a second battery.
Say again?
Best thing for baby monitors is buy a second battery. Because always pray.
No, it was just we were getting like a weak signal. I don't know, something weird was happening, and we just restarted it. And now it's good to go. Yeah, she just feels right now. She just feels just like a list of all the cool things that, you know, would make her seem threatening. You know, if Lorelai is indeed having feelings for Luke, but I don't really get much of a personality yet.
I don't like her for future episode reasons. So.
Say again?
I said I don't like her for like future episode reasons, which is why I can't really elaborate too much on why I don't like her. So yeah, but I think it's a clear consensus that Dean's an idiot.
Why? Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
Okay, I've been dying to elaborate on this. Okay, so saying I love you, regardless TV, real life, it's a huge deal, because once you say it, it is out there. You can't take it back. Trust me. And like the reason why I don't like Dean and I think he's an idiot is because like even Rory said it, like it's a big deal, and like her mother was in love with Chris, and then they saw that how she saw that, well, she was a product of what happened, but like she hasn't really had like a good example on what it is to like love somebody. And like you can't expect someone to say I love you right after you said it, because sometimes people aren't feeling it, aren't there quite yet, or three, they're like, they don't know how they feel, because like I've been in situations where a guy has said I love you and I wasn't there yet, and flip-flop it. I've said I love you to someone and they weren't ready for it. So I don't know why he got all bent out of shape when she said like I have to think about it, because I feel like that's a logical thing to say, because like especially when you're young, the word I love you, I feel like it's thrown around so like blasé, and like she had all like every right to feel how she felt. Dean had no right to say what he said and make Rory feel like an awful person for not saying it back, because some people aren't ready.
Kathy Ann?
It really bothers me at the part where he cuts her off when she's talking about Lorelai and Chris, and he cuts her off and he's like, "You don't get pregnant from saying I love you," because I don't think that's where she was going with it. I think it was more of the fact of they said I love you and they're still not together, and I don't want to say it and have that habit.
I agree. Like his reaction wasn't great, but I think what we're more seeing there is his hurt, right? He loves her and he really wanted to hear her say it back. And so he's lashing out because he's hurt, not because he's mad at her. And I don't think he really wanted to force her to say it. He's just, his feelings are really hurt.
That's how I feel about it. I mean, I get it that, like, you know, his reaction was probably not the most tactful, but I certainly don't fault him for saying he loves her. It may be quite a big deal for him, you know. I mean, I don't know. It's true that young people don't really typically have a good grasp on what love is versus, you know, infatuation, etc. But it may very well be like a huge deal for him. And so I don't fault him for what he said. I also certainly don't fault her for her response to it. But his reaction afterwards just feels to me like a guy who is just absolutely like devastated by what happened, and you know, and probably his ego is sort of mixed into it all as well, which makes it a little more complicated.
He's got teenage boy brain. I mean, he's a teenage boy. They get very emotional sometimes, just like girls do. He just reacted poorly, is all.
He's a very emotional guy. I think it's why I really like him. You know, he has that kind of like cool guy swagger thing, but really like sensitive guy. He remembers anniversaries. Like, you know, he has all of these traits that are, you know, traits that we would imagine from a female love interest. And so I don't have a hard time buying that he's like actually in love with her, even at this early stage, in his own way. And I mean, I'm really sad that they're broken up.
My problem with it is that he broke up with her over it. It's like he could be upset. He could, you know, I understand that he's upset. He's, you know, but why break up with her over it? Why not give her time? You know, that's my problem.
So that's we don't actually ever see him actually break up with her, though. He just says like he's going to take her home. So the assumption is that he's the one who breaks up with her, but that's always something I've kind of thought, like we don't really ever see that happening. And kind of like what John was saying, that's I think that's just part of Dean's character, is he's always been much more kind of like sensitive and emotional. So I really don't fault him for getting upset. I think he was really hurt. I mean, that doesn't excuse the behavior, but I think that you have to have some empathy for him there too.
John, did you open the couch back up?
Sorry about that. We're opening up the couch. Any folks who are on that are out there, we say all of the folks out there are on bean bags. If you want to trade in your bean bag for a spot on the couch, please come on up. We would love to hear your thoughts on this very, very emotional episode.
I was thinking about what Stacey mentioned, that, you know, we don't actually see the breakup, and I had kind of a passing thought, like, was it maybe not Dean? But I think we have to assume that it was, you know, certainly because, you know, Rory was saying like, you know, please don't be mad, please don't be upset, like I need to think about it. And so based on her reaction, I can't see that she would have been the one that broke up with him. But I'd be interested if somebody has a different thought.
I'm kind of like if I had to imagine what the actual official breakup conversation sounded like, it was probably not like, I don't want to be with you anymore. It was probably something more along the lines like, well, do you even want to be in this relationship? And her kind of like maybe hesitating, and him being kind of like, Rory, that doesn't sound like you want, okay, fine, then we're not gonna, like I kind of imagine that it like wasn't specifically one or the other, that just what happened tonight just railroaded the entire relationship, and one thing led to another, and all of a sudden they're both like, we're broken up. Oh my God.
Hey, sorry to cut in. I just wanted to say, Jess, I am trying to let you in and it's glitching.
I'm doing the same.
Yeah.
I actually sent you a manual invite, and for whatever reason, it's not letting you come up. And so what I would suggest is that you actually close the app out completely, come back in, and usually that like kind of fixes the glitch, and you'll be able to come right back in to the room and everything. Because we definitely would love to get you up here on the couch.
There's a
Rachel,
Jessica wanting to say.
Yes, I've been trying to get on since 10 minutes before the episode started.
Oh man, I'm so sorry.
So, in regards to Rory and Dean, I think that you're still supposed to be seeing Rory as an innocent little 16-year-old this time, and this is her first boyfriend. So just from the interaction that they had in the car, she most likely assumed that meant breakup. They may not have even talked on the way back to her house. I've thought that I've been broken up with before that way, like, well, we're in a fight and I've never done this before, so I just assume this is over now because you're not talking to me and you're mad.
Yeah, but I think the way he reacted, anything less than her
Jeff.
saying "I love you" back, then he's questioning, does she want to be in the relationship? Is this for them? Like, where I wish she, and I think someone else said this too, I wish she could have explained it more, because to her that's a big thing, and she has all these plans to go to college and travel the world, and I think it just is so overwhelming. So I wish that he would have kind of given her the chance to explain herself and realize that just because someone doesn't say "I love you," those 3 words, doesn't mean that they don't love you. I think to her it was just such a big thing and represented more than just the 3 words.
Yeah, I was talking about that with some of the other girls during the episode, and I think that she also didn't say it right away because, like I just said, this is her first boyfriend ever. How does she know if she's in love with him or not? She just knows that this is something new and different.
Totally, I agree with that for sure. I like I said, I think that that how she responded was absolutely, a natural reaction, especially for a character like Rory. And I think that she has very strong feelings for him. But she's also smart enough to know that she isn't, that just sort of throwing that word around without like really being confident what it means is something that she just, she isn't comfortable doing. And I think ultimately it's really about that clash of like, feeling like you can use that word versus you can't. I mean, we don't know, like, it's very possible that in Dean's family, that word is used much more than what Rory is used to hearing in her life. She's grown up with basically just her mother around with her, who of course has told her that, but that's the only person she has to relate it to. Whereas Dean may have heard it from lots and lots of people, around him, and so the word means something a little different to him.
So I don't fault him for his reaction, but I have to say this is the first episode where we see him be whiny, and that really bothered me. Like when she's like, I have to think about it, he starts being like, you don't love me, and it's just like, nobody, like, you can talk
so
about
whiny,
it, but you don't need to whine.
Tasha.
Love it, Mary.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just like I'm a Pisces. We're an emotional bunch. Any other Pisces in the floor could probably understand this. I understand being upset, and this kind of contradicts what I said before. I understand being upset and all of that, because not being told I love you sucks. But like, I think it was Rachel who said, or someone said, Just because you're not told I love you doesn't mean that that person doesn't love you back, because people getting to that word, it takes a lot longer for one person to get to I love you than the other. Like I love that I know what I know, but I'm just gonna not say any spoilers. She's probably not there yet. And like was it Nikki said? I'm not sure. I can't pay attention tonight, but like she hasn't really been told that a lot in her life other than her mother. And so like she's not there yet. And I fault Dean entirely because
Me too.
Okay, but he's also 16, and it's his first relationship too. Like, I don't like his reaction. I hate the one.
I don't think it is, though. I think they've talked about him having other girlfriends before.
Yeah, he had a girlfriend in Chicago that they talked about early on.
Okay,
in the
but
season.
he's still
Yes,
16.
Beth.
But
And Rory was like, it's so Beth.
I didn't feel like the
my
whining.
least favorite line.
I didn't feel like the whining was like it. It didn't bother me. I mean, I just read it as a guy who's extremely hurt and kind of reeling and just he just wasn't the best of himself there, you know. But if that's the kind of whining that we'll see more of from the character throughout, I don't know if that's going to really sway my feelings about him. So far, he feels like a very emotional character, and you know, certainly not perfect. I feel like I kind of know where this relationship's going now, because typically those types of reactions tend to snowball, and eventually, like, it just makes everything weird, and then, you know, it's irreparable, right, at that point. So it's sort of sad to think that this is sort of going down that path, and that it will probably never really ever get great again. I don't know. But I certainly don't. I'm still Team Dean. The whining, really, like I said, it doesn't bother me, because I recognize it as something that is that's just more coming from a place of hurt.
I've been waiting.
I'm sorry,
all night.
Jennifer. You've been flashing your mic. I'm sorry, Jennifer.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I agree that it comes from a place of hurt, but his reactions are so frustrating to me that it doesn't make it okay to me. Like, I think we're seeing someone who is really emotional, which I appreciate, but he doesn't. I know he's a 16-year-old, but for the sake of conversation, you know, he doesn't know how to control his emotions, and it really frustrates me to see him like lash out as a result of that. And I feel like once he says I love you, and then like we see the conversation turn and gets mad about it, I feel like he's just making it. It's like he's not saying it for her benefit at that point. Like, he's saying it so that he could hear it back, and that bothers me too.
I think it's interesting, though. I mean, we're not giving John spoilers, but we still have formulated ideas in our head about how we feel about characters, and because we've seen the entire series. And so it's really hard to distill your opinion of the characters down to just these 16 episodes that we've watched, because we know what happens after that. So John's perspective on it is really interesting. And I was trying to think back to the first time that I was watching it, and you know, I am not Team Dean, but I feel like initially I really did like Dean, and John is kind of reminding me of that. So I think it's an interesting perspective.
So I am Team Dean till now, just so you know. Like, I can criticize him, but I'm still Team Dean.
I agree completely. Like, I have to kind of remember how I felt when I was watching it the first time. I think it's really easy to start kind of retroactively kind of judging characters just based on what we know later. And I think the other thing that I try and remember with this is that, you know, this is her first love. This is his first love, and first loves are supposed to be, you know, kind of intense sometimes. And I think that's just what they were trying to illustrate. It's just,
hey, Sabrina,
you know,
can you be careful with the microphone? Your mic is on. We're hearing a lot of background.
Oh, sorry.
Go for it, Regina.
Thank you. I'm raised my hand because I was curious to ask. I know that it's been really tough to kind of keep our opinions about the characters to just these 16 episodes of the show. But in terms of like relationships, like I have never been in a relationship before. And I know that you guys have like talked about your like personal experiences and stuff, and you have shared. And I was curious to know, like, what do you do in a situation when like someone professes to you, like, I love you, or you say it back, or like you say it first and they don't say it. Like, how do you move on from that? Because like from what I've seen, like from Dean's reaction, like he's very vulnerable at this point, and he kind of like professes like his love to her, and like he's like all in at this point. And you know, to not hear it back, like I can understand the hurt, but I'm confused. Like I feel like the breakup, like what do you do after you tell someone you love them and they don't say it back?
Tasha, you have a response to that?
Huh?
So it sounds like you have an answer to that.
Yeah. And then Justin's been flashing just as hard as I am. So I've been on both ends of it a couple times, and I've even said it when I didn't even mean it, and that's even worse. But I was on the receiving end where a guy said, I love you, and I wasn't there quite yet. And like, it was kind of like, not as like whiny and childlike as Dean, but to some degree, he was upset and kind of saying like, you're supposed to say it back. And I'm like, excuse me, that's not how this works. Like, this is not a transaction. This is saying I love you, something that you can't take back once it's out there. And we didn't talk for like a week or so. And I can't say too much more of what happened, because then I'll spoil what, like, the rest of the season.
I just think that when that happens, Regina, it's a mess. It's just typically a mess. I mean, like, you know,
no matter how much you swing it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when and it typically happens, you know, to young people way more, because you know there's just so much experimentation that's happening in sort of young relationships and versus more mature relationships. You've been through all of that, so you understand the risks and you also can gauge a little bit better whether or not the person's feeling what you're feeling, and you can also understand, like, you know, perhaps if Dean was older, he could have recognized that, like, Rory perhaps did feel the same thing he was feeling, but just was not prepared to call it love, and that would have been okay for him, you know. But you know, young relationships, they suffer that more, and when it happens, it's just typically it ends up being a mess. Yeah, it's happened to me, so I mean, I can speak from my experience that, you know, that's just part of, I think that's just part of young love, and I think that's ultimately what this, you know, what we're meant to take away from this episode and all of these episodes with Rory and Dean is just, you know, all of the complications that occur in young love. And so it's why I like, you know, I can't really fault him, even you know, for his behavior. All I see it is just sorry sorry about that.
They
I have
wanna
5
put
of them,
their
don't worry.
2 cents in too.
Our dogs
they
do
have
not
ideas.
like, they do not like anything, any sound that they may hear outside our front door. They go bananas, bananarama.
That's
Sorry.
the shepherd in them. That's a great.
Yeah,
great
that's the shepherd. They're very, very, very protective dogs. They're the sweetest dogs in the world. They would never, ever even dream of harming another person, but they like to let you know that they are there on the other side of the door. Anyway, I'm done with what I was just saying there about young love. I just, to answer your question, Regina, there's really no answer to it. It's just like that typically is just a little like a little messy, and it's just something that young love kind of has to deal with if it happens.
Go for it, Jessica. She's been flashing for a while.
Well, I have a subject change question for John, so I'm going to let anybody else finish their Rory and Dean stuff first, and then when y'all are ready, let me know.
I still want
My
to talk
dogs are
about
going
the
crazy
smoking.
too.
I want to talk about the smoking thing for just a second. It's just a geeky little weird, interesting production thing that you guys might find interesting. But yeah, does anybody else have anything that they want to add to the whole Dean and Rory thing? I'm sure we're going to see much more of it. I'm sure it's going to get weirder. and
I think Jess does.
Yeah, I think Jess does too.
Yeah, I was just going to say in response to Regina's question, the show actually answers that a little bit later. I would say in the latter half of the series, so no spoilers, but I don't know if you remember it, but it does come up again, the L-bomb. So look forward to that and maybe get your question answered.
Good. Can't wait.
Thanks for the perspective. I would have to agree with you, John. I think like from what I've seen and like what I can deduce from like the show, I think it's supposed to be like sort of like, I don't know if folly is the word, of like young love. So yeah.
I said it. I said it at the beginning. I said it at the beginning. You know, the whole Romeo and Juliette star-crossed lovers thing, right? Like, you know, that play is like about like a huge misunderstanding, like a tragedy that because there was like a miscommunication, you know. And so that's kind of what we're seeing here. I expect that this will get, I mean, you guys all know, but I expect it's going to get weirder. I expect it's going to get more complicated. And I love it. I can't wait because that's like, you know, that's what I'm here for. I want to see all of that, like interesting, super nuanced and super honest character development.
Hey,
and
John.
he was going to build her a car just because she didn't have one. Oh, you didn't have one? I'm going to build you one.
Hudson on Instagram Live was saying that the writing was really spot on for that scene because of the way they wrote those two characters and their emotional roller coaster of it and all that.
And not only that, we just got to give a huge props to those actors. They just absolutely slayed that scene. They slayed it. It was so good. Every bit of it. The way that Rory like goes from just like, you are so wonderful to just like face dropping, you know, the way that his you know, I mean, it's easy to forget that there's actors behind them, you know, like we get like so invested in like, God, I hate Dean. He's so annoying. You know, you got to remember, like, you feel that way about Dean because an actor did like an incredible job of, you know, showing you that, you know? So
a combination of the writing and acting.
Yeah, for sure. Jessica, you wanted to ask me a question about something off topic?
Yeah, I thought you were going to talk about the smoking thing first.
No. I'll just bring that up at some point. It's nothing really major. It's just that like it's interesting when I watch old shows that are old Warner Brothers shows, and I see smoking in them because it's not allowed anymore. When I, you know, so after the show, I went on and you know, started a career as a writer, and I worked on and I wrote a show that Warner Brothers purchased, and I produced it with them. And I just remember that by then, this is like 2012 now, so the show's been off the air for, you know, 5 years. It was just an absolute rule, like characters could not smoke on camera. It was like an actual studio policy. that there was just no more smoking on camera. Not even like, because a lot of that smoking stuff is actually fake. You know, they're not real. They're not real cigarettes. They're like a, you know, some little thing that's, you know, meant to look like a cigarette.
Yeah, they sell to make them look like cigarettes for shows and stuff.
Yeah, but this was actually a policy of we will no longer have characters on our shows that will be glorifying that anymore. Like, and so it was interesting. I mean, because we had characters in the show that I wrote. We had characters that we wrote in smoking, and we had to actually remove it. We had to like figure out a way around it. And there was actually like something in it that where the smoking was actually an important part of the important part of the plot. And so we were like, oh shoot, what do we do? And so when I see smoking now and I'm like looking at a show from 2000, I'm like, wow, man, in 10 years, how things have changed, you know, in terms of what you can and can't do. Also, you know, there are a variety of things that, this is another interesting, just interesting production tidbit. Actors are protected from stuff like that, kind of, I guess, protected, not really, but you may not know this, but actors get paid extra for certain things that they have to do on camera. So there's like an extra fee that producers have to pay if an actor gets wet. So if you ever see actors like wet, there's actually an extra fee that has to be paid because the actor was wet. And that was the same for smoking as well. There was a fee that would have to be paid if an actor was smoking.
That's funny you say that, because I was listening to John Cryer's audiobook today, and he talked about how he does fire acting. Like, he gets set on fire a lot. He gets paid extra for it.
Yeah, there's just like a whole list of, like, it's all protected. You know, the actors are all protected by their union, and these are all rules that the union sort of, you know, got for the actors over time. And it's funny, you can see it on like the call sheets when you arrive to set. You know, you can see like, you know, in the like you know, the actual time card, like, you know, when you punched in as an actor and when you signed out, and then you see things like, you know, were you smoking? Did you get wet? You know, like, and based on what things are checked off will determine what your check is going to look like when you get paid. Interesting. I don't know. I find it interesting. It's like, it's just weird little quirks of the trade. But anyway. So
like, how much more money are we talking? Like,
not that much. Like, I mean, it's
like I got wet, so I get 10 extra bucks. Like,
no. It would be like in the hundreds. It would be I believe it's a percentage of what you made originally. So you know, often actors, you know, their fees are negotiated by their agents. There's a base fee. There's a, you know, the like the rate at which a show cannot pay less than that. That's negotiated essentially by the union, right? So the union and the studios have made this deal that they will not pay an actor for certain things, you know, for, you know, 3 days of work, or you can hire this actor for 8 days and you get a discount on them, you know? And so that's like a base rate. And then, you know, agents will negotiate you higher based on whether or not they think they can get that for you, if you're somebody who, you know, would demand it. Like, I, for example, did not demand it. so I, you know, I basically had to rely on the unions protecting us. And so then those extra fees would be a percentage of that. And, you know, it ends up being in like the hundreds, you know, certainly not like massive amounts, but, you know, they're just like they're almost like little penalties in a way, you know, like you're putting that actor through through extra stress. You got to pay for that kind of thing.
Tell me exactly what you wrote in 2012 on Instagram Live.
Oh, a show called, it was a series called H+. Yeah, it was a science fiction series that took place in like a hypothetical future in which everybody in the world has implanted computers, so nobody has like smartphones or laptops anymore. They all like see like a hallucinatory computer screen in front of them. So people are like, kind of like tapping the air in front of them, but you can't really see what they're seeing. So it takes place in this future world with all of these, like, the whole world connected this way. And the inciting incident, right? Like the thing that kind of starts the story is that all of a sudden, like 99% of people with those implants just suddenly drop dead. And so all of the survivors are kind of trying to figure out what happened, including some people who had the implant and didn't die. And of course, people who didn't get the implant and whatnot.
So it's just like the COVID vaccine conspiracy.
Well, I mean, now of course, like, 10 years later, I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope that people don't think that I'm
You were foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing.
Thanks, John.
What's up?
I was just saying, thanks, John.
But it's just fun. As I think I've told you guys before, I was a huge Lost fan. I just loved Lost. I just loved all of the like mystery and what's going on and trying to be in it. And then I just also loved figuring that stuff out with a community, because there were all these people like, just bunches of buds on social media that we would like, talk about it. And I wrote a blog about it. We would like, comment on it, in a lot of ways.
I enjoyed that blog.
yeah. In a lot of ways, Remarcus is kind of me, like, like kind of bringing all of that kind of fun back, like the conversation, the community around a show that I really loved. Anyway, I loved that show. And then when it went off the air, I just was hungry to create something like it, and so H+ was largely inspired by my love of Lost. And so I created this like kind of mystery type, like what's happening here. And it was like a huge ensemble of characters, and it took place all around the world. And we shot it in Chile, which was just absolutely incredible. And we like recreated like 13 geographic locations, all like within the, the greater Santiago area. Anyway, but getting back to it, yeah, I had a character in there that was smoking, and I had to figure out a way around it.
So where can we catch it?
Oh, dang it, never mind.
Sorry.
You can actually, it's on YouTube. I think you can still see it. Yeah, if you just go to YouTube and you type in at the letter H and then the plus symbol, you'll see like one of the first things that'll come up is H+ the digital series, and then you can watch it there. They're all like really short little like tiny little episodes. They're like 5 minutes long, and so the whole thing is about like 3.5 hours. And that was another part of the whole thing, is that audiences were sort of challenged to like piece the puzzle together. So you can watch them out of order, and like kind of watch them in whatever order you think fits best for you. We had like a nice little fan following and stuff. There were all these people who were like trying to figure it out and like, creating their own edits out of the episodes and whatnot. It was very fun. Unfortunately, the executives who worked on it with us ended up leaving Warner Brothers. So we didn't really have the champions that we had for the first season trying to get the second season done. But that's for another time. Jessica, what were you interested to know?
Hooray! Okay. So my question is, after tonight, is your perception of Emily evolving a little after seeing her getting Lorelai there to dinner with the boring guy, and seeing Lorelai and Richard kind of go against what Emily's doing, and her talking about the guy's breeding and stuff? I heard you mention.
I mean, no. I mean, I still love Emily. I still think Emily is awesome, and I think she is a good person, and I think that she's more good than like when she's the best of herself, she's absolutely fantastic, and when she's the worst of herself, to me, at worst, so far, she's just a bit annoying. And I would say like the breeding line was just, Emily just being the worst of Emily, but it didn't really rub me the wrong way, other than like, oh God, that's kind of annoying, you know. I still have a hard time forgetting moments like the moment in yesterday's episode where she told Rory, you don't think for a second that you were not wanted. I mean, just that kind of stuff. That stuff's so much harder for me to forget. Whereas these little Emily quirks, to me they just are like little, they're like little nothings. But I'm totally open to the thought that perhaps something major happens that like it has me just absolutely like, ugh. But as of right now, no. She's still. My feeling about her is still the same. I love her.
Rachel is flashing.
Yeah, I was going to say the breeding comment was not a good one, but I don't think that her setting up Lorelai was that unreasonable. Lorelai is single. She hasn't seen her in a committed relationship in such a long time. Her daughter, is in a 3-month relationship. I think she was just trying to help. The guy was a total dud, but I think her heart was in the right place. And so I think to think about, I don't know, just her intentions and that guy. I think we need to talk about that guy as well.
I'd say maybe, but she also should know Lorelai well enough by now to know that she doesn't like other people trying to control any part of her. So setting her up seems to me like one of the worst things you could do for Lorelai.
I don't think it was.
But it's
so
just
much
quintessential
control,
Emily, because she always has good intentions, but it's often misdirected or misguided. But
Rachel, what were you saying? You started.
I don't think it was so much as a control thing. I think that I get she manipulated the situation and didn't even tell Richard that she was inviting this guy. But I don't think it was so much as a control thing as like good intentions.
I mean, like play it out, right? Like imagine, just hypothetically speaking, imagine if Lorelai really had liked that guy. Like, let's say the guy arrived, absolutely charming, he's really funny, he's really cool, and
Okay,
Lorelai
I'm
actually.
Cut you off because Emily should have known that Lorelai was not going to like this guy. I completely know where you're going, and I'll.
All I'm saying is just to imagine, had it gone well, don't you think Emily would have felt happy, like that her daughter found somebody and that she helped her find somebody?
She thinks she would. She really wants to help her find.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I guess I'm just getting at that. I think she wants to be helpful. I don't think it's a control thing. I think she wants to be helpful. She's not good at it.
I think she just wants her to be what she sees as.
Yeah, I agree with that.
this is definitely a callback to like a couple episodes ago when Lorelai decides to invite Dean over to their movie night to like with Rory and stuff so that they can hang out, and Rory like freaks out on her. And I think I don't know if John, you were the one asking like, oh, like what would Lorelai's reaction be like had Emily set her up with somebody, or I don't know if it was someone in the audience, but it's like we definitely see this like now. But I think it's sort of juxtaposed in a sense because Chase was a total dud, and like with Dean, it worked out, and I think it kind of pushed Rory.
But Lorelai already knew that Rory liked Dean.
Oh, Mary, continue what you were going to say, Mary, about, you know, just in terms of if Lorelai, like just the specific person that Emily chose, are you suggesting that you think that Emily chose him because he's a dud?
No, I think Emily chose someone that she thought would be a good match, not thinking of what Lorelai will think is a good match. That's why Emily kept coming up with topic conversations that had nothing to do with Lorelai's interests.
I agree with that all the way.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean I think that's definitely the case. I just think that we're not giving Emily enough credit for like actually just trying to do. I mean, failing I agree, failing, but at least trying to do something good. You know, that it's not always just this like Emily is just wanting to do this because Emily wants control. You know, I think Emily legitimately wants her daughter to have somebody and to be happy. She's just out of touch with what that actually is.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you there. I think Emily wants her daughter to have somebody. I think that what Emily's motivations, listen, I have to tell you, I've watched the show many times. I love Emily. I'm not bashing on Emily. But I think it's easier to really understand her when you think about Emily wants perfection around her. She wants things to look good and be good around her, even if the people who are around her are miserable, as long as it looks good. And so I think in this case, Emily's motivation was, let's just get Lorelai in a relationship. Does it really matter what kind of quality? Now, knowing Lorelai, she should have known the quality will matter, but she didn't care to stop herself for that.
I think Emily thinks that's the quality that Lorelai should be with, because she just, that's in her mind, he's good breeding, he's got a good job and all that. But can we just talk about the great acting without words from Richard? The facial expressions at dinner and his reactions, I loved it. I'm sorry.
I loved it too. I was having a hard time. I felt like I missed something. Like, you know, it just seemed like it seemed, I just wouldn't have expected him to be that like, God, this guy is awful. But yeah, I mean, I get it. Mary, you're suggesting that Emily knows that this is not somebody that Lorelai would like, but doesn't really care.
Yeah, I am, and I think it's also just what we just talked about, the fact that Richard doesn't like him. Like, this isn't even someone that they could bear if it wasn't for the fact that Emily wanted it.
I feel like I need to watch more of the series before I can join you on that boat, because right now I'm not seeing that. As of right now, I see more a woman who's just making mistakes rather than a woman who's like maliciously, like selfishly designing that.
It's not malicious. It's her whole.
Or selfishly. I mean, like selfishly saying, like, I don't really care what you want. You know, what you need is this. I'm not totally seeing that yet. I feel like more like she's still out of touch with what her daughter wants. Like I still see it as that she would actually be like, if Lorelai had come to her and said, Mom, you know, he was really great, you know, surprisingly great, that Emily would be like overjoyed that she did something right, and that her sister or that her daughter liked it, and that she might be like, see, I told you. And that would just suggest that she is I mean, again, that's just hypothetical, because that scene that I just did right there didn't actually happen in the show. But I guess I just need to see more before I'm there with you on that. I feel like you know the character a lot better than I do, and you're able to see things that I'm just not seeing right now, just because maybe it's my first watch through, or it'll start to come into perspective a bit more for me as I see more of her. Because as of right now, I just see a flawed woman who's trying to do right, and just failing.
So I may be reading way too much into this, but I actually was reflecting on some of what you guys were saying and then watching the episode. And this is a new thought that kind of came up for me, and I'm curious what you guys think. So I was connecting it with the fact that, you know, this was timing up with Rory being in a relationship. And I kind of wondered if maybe on some level Emily was reflecting on the fact, like, okay, Lorelai's their only daughter and Rory's now in a relationship. At some point, you know, Rory might move on and she might kind of move on like with her life and, you know, settle down with her own relationship. And maybe she was kind of worried about what would happen with Lorelai if she didn't have somebody there to kind of take care of her and things like that. Because I feel like it can't just be about like she wants Lorelai to be with like this perfect person, but also being with somebody who she thinks could support her and take care of her. Well, I think like Rory actually comically touched on that, funny enough, where she said, and I know you're not a cat person, so you really truly will be alone if you don't find someone, which I find kind of funny. I think like maybe that's what Emily was thinking, but considering that if we go back, the fact that like this is the most they've seen of Lorelai since Rory was little, because they would only see each other on holidays, if you remember from the first episode. So I think honestly, Emily just doesn't know what kind of guy Lorelai likes, so she's just thinking, okay, like kind of like what someone said, like, oh, she needs to find a guy. Like, I know people because Emily has connections with what she does, and so she just assumes a guy with a good standing would be like Lorelai's type because like she's not around her often enough to know exactly what Lorelai wants. So she's just like grasping at like straws, and those straws happen to be the sons of her DAR friend.
Hey, folks, just to let you know, I'm going to actually have to jump off here in a second, but I have one more question that I just wanted to ask. And it's in regards to this. Is it okay for a person to believe they know better than another person about love, right? Like, is that a line you don't cross? If you feel like somebody is making mistakes over and over again, is it okay to feel like I know why you're making these mistakes and I'd like to try and help? Or is that just something you have to just let a person continue to make the mistakes on their own and find on their own? Anybody who wants to answer that?
It's actually kind of what I was going to bring up, because I think that my interpretation is exactly that's what's happened here, is that I think Emily sees that Lorelai has had failed relationships and is still single. And so I think she thinks at this point that she knows better than Lorelai and knows better than Lorelai what type of man she should be with. And so she thinks that she's doing a nice thing by, trying to connect her with this man. I think that's how I interpret it.
Rachel, I saw you flashing. Flashing your mic.
She did make a comment about the type of men that Lorelai typically picks, and it wasn't a very flattering comment. And so I think it would be appropriate to offer somebody, hey, you usually date this kind of person. How about, which I realize this was not a match for her at all. And if she knew Lorelai, which she's still getting to know, then she would realize that this is not for her. But I don't think it's wrong for you to suggest somebody who's different. I think it can work. And I think, why not? Why not try something different? And I don't think that's crossing the line. I think it's still, you still support your friend or your family member, and you still hold their hand when they still get burned. But I don't think it's inappropriate to give them something, I don't know, different.
Mary?
I think there is a line when you do it without warning them. So I'm just saying, like, there's a difference between going to someone and saying, hey, I think you're dating the wrong kind of guy. What do you think about this guy that I know? Let me set it up. We'll make it low key. It'll be like 4 or 5 of us. You get to know him. Versus the, hey, you're here. Now here's the guy. And I think that's the line that Emily crossed. It's not that I don't think Emily's intentions were mean or malicious. I do think she was completely off the mark. And I think she knew she was completely off the mark, but wanted to see if she could convince Lorelai against Lorelai. Like, she knew if she had tried to bring it up to Lorelai, it would be a fight. So she went around her on purpose. And that's where I think the line was that she crossed that she shouldn't have.
So you feel that a person should be able to try to help another person, you know, sort of get out of their bad habits of dating only if the other person agrees to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's like a consent, you know, acknowledging the person is an adult. You can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves. And if you're going to keep going around them, they're going to come to a point of where they're not going to want to be around you. So how much help have you provided?
Yeah, I've had it happen to me before, and it's caused problems in my friendships because of them trying to set me up with people without my knowledge ahead of time.
It's just so hard as a parent, though. I feel like now that I'm watching this as a mom, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that to my kids, but I can also see it being really hard not to.
Well, I mean, sometimes when you see somebody who is hurting or is not, you know, or is making mistakes over and over again and refuses to take your help, it's hard not to just say, I'm going to do this unilaterally without your consent. You know, I mean, obviously I don't want to like compare relationship to like substance abuse, but like, you know, we see interventions happen all the time in families that see that one of their members has a problem. So, but you know, I mean, I don't know. It's a really interesting topic, and it's a really. I feel like we're gonna have way more conversations like this going into the series. I mean, we're only on episode 16 of the first season, and just my sense from how people talk about Emily, I'm sure I have just so much more to learn about this character. So I would love to just take it in as it comes. Keep asking me though. Keep asking me how I feel about her, because I will be honest, you know, with how I'm feeling from episode to episode. I'm actually going to jump now. I have made all of you, as I always do, moderators in the room. When I leave, you'll have one less person that can be spoiled on the episode, so you can, I would imagine, start talking about more specifics about the characters as they relate to later episodes. Yeah. Is there anything else anybody wanted to ask or say before I jump out?
Me?
Yeah.
So, sorry, I've talked a lot tonight, and I apologize.
Never apologize. You don't need to apologize for talking too much.
Okay, good. So, coming off of like what we were all saying just now, because I've just been listening to people, because I think it's pretty interesting where people's opinions are. So I think in terms of like, I don't really like it when people like go behind someone's back and just do something without their knowledge. I mean, the one with Rory, that was kind of funny. But when it comes to like helping people when they've been single for so long, coming from a person who's been single for nearly 3 years now, I don't mind advice. I don't mind it at all. Like, I love advice. I love people's input, but where it kind of like draws the line, like regardless if it's a parent or a friend, I think you kind of have to like see where that invisible line is, where like you're kind of crossing it. And I think like with what Emily was doing, even though she meant well, I kind of feel like she crossed a line that she might not have known was there, because like regardless if like that guy was great or not, like she still like did it without her knowing, and I think like that's kind of an unwritten rule. You just don't do that. I mean, blind dates are another thing.
I mean, I think I can accept this idea that she crossed the line. That I get. I think I'm just defending her good intentions. I think that's really all it is. That
oh yeah, she had good intentions.
I just feel like, yeah, I just feel like she had good intentions, and but I get that she probably crossed the line there. I guess I'm giving her a little bit more slack because I just feel like I've seen that before, and I kind of know where it comes from. Look, I've been on the receiving end of it, and I didn't like it, you know. So I've had family like intervene, you know, and do things that they thought that I needed without without my permission, and I didn't like it. So I get it. I mean, ultimately, it's just like it's what makes the character so complex and so interesting is that we can have these discussions and have these debates on what her intentions are, whether she's selfish, whether she's doing it for Lorelai or for herself, or and that, to me, that's what's making that character so high up on my list of characters on this show. Anyway, I'm gonna jump. I've got an episode of The Amazing Race with my wife that that I'm dying to watch.